So first of all, everyone, welcome. Good morning. Does this remind you of kindergarten? Good morning, Miss. And I'm not going to say make you say my surname because this is not a mind-bending language seminar, right? So is everyone well? Everyone excited? Yes? Yeah. How many of you here are already hypnotists, would you say, who use hypnosis on a relatively regular basis? Oh, nice. That's quite a number. Who here is completely new, has no idea what they're in for, and is possibly a little bit afraid? Not afraid? I like the courage. But we have a fear person here. Well, don't worry. These are very nice people, and we're going to have a lot of fun here. The main reason for me checking in here is we've got a really nice mix. I actually normally like to have a more of a even mix between inexperienced people and more experienced people. But with something like applied conversation hypnosis, it's actually quite useful for you to be in this room because you're going to see a lot of different styles and things like that. The one thing I will say here right up front, guys, is those of you who've trained with me before, you'll know this is applied conversation hypnosis. This is probably the most covert, the most natural style of conversation hypnosis that we've created so far. It's a really powerful process. How many of you guys in the school, in the diploma school? Hands up a second, right? So, oh, well, they're all sitting in the same corner. This is interesting. Why are you sitting here, Larissa? You like them? Has something happened? I'm teasing. So you guys have already kind of seen a little bit where we're heading towards. I'll talk more about that in a moment. This is a very, very powerful form of hypnosis. It's very conversational. And for those of you with a more traditional hypnosis background, this will look nothing like hypnosis, nothing. You'll sit there scratching your head going like, in what way is this hypnosis, right? And I'd like to address that question straight up front, which is the same as hypnosis in the most fundamental way, which is we're going to be dealing directly with someone's unconscious, right? Now, they will think that they're conscious in the middle of that conversation. They will be convinced that everything was normal, was just a really wonderful, deep, pleasant conversation. But don't you be fooled. Everything you can do with regular hypnosis, you can do with conversational hypnosis, and you'll be discovering that to a greater extent in the next 5 days here, right? But that means for those of you guys who have less of an experience with hypnosis at this point, there's a lot of myths and a lot of misconceptions around hypnosis. I invite you just to throw them out the window because this will look nothing like any movie you've ever seen. And if that's what you came here for, then, and if you only want that, then I can give you a heads up straight away. Ask for a refund right now because you're not going to see any zombies walking. You're not going to see any, what people traditionally associate with hypnosis. Even my pocket watch is virtual, right? It's on my phone. So this is not a traditional hypnosis style seminar, but it is a very powerful form of communication. It's a very powerful form of hypnosis. You're going to be getting into unconscious territory very quickly, right? Now, this comes with a caveat, and it's something that's very important. Because conversation hypnosis is, first of all, it's a very covert, it's very natural, right? And it's also very powerful. Those of you who've used it, would it be fair to say it gets into big stuff quickly, right? It means you've got to use this tool with a great deal of respect. I love Spider-Man's uncle for this. Not because he's dead, but because he was very wise before he died. Of course, he's a fictional character, so what am I talking about? You can revive him anytime you want. Just go to episode 1. With great power comes great responsibility. And this is very true for what we're doing here, right? And so the first, I'm going to ask for a couple of commitments here. And the first commitment I'm going to ask from you guys is this. Whenever you start engaging in a kind of a conversation hypnosis exercise with people, especially the more in-depth exercises that we'll get into over time, you will need to ask for permission from your partner, and at times they'll ask you to ask for it overtly to do certain kinds of exercises, certain lines of questioning and so on, because it'll go to very personal things very quickly, right? If your partner is not comfortable with that, there's two things here. Number one, you, the partner, if you're not comfortable with a direction that a conversation is going in, it is your job to pause your partner and say, let's switch tracks, let's switch topics, let's go to something else, let's leave this alone. It's your job to do that because no one in this room is a mind reader. Luckily, Luke, one of our trainers, who's also a mentalist, a magician, is a mind reader, and he's not here today, so I can say this in full conviction. No one here is a mind reader. Which means unless you tell them that they're going into some unpleasant territory for you, they won't necessarily know. So your responsibility is to say, you know what, thank you for the conversation, the direction you're going in and so on, but I'd like to change topic now. As the hypnotist, the other side of the conversation here, if you ever hear that, and you probably will once or twice throughout the seminar, your job is not to ask further questions like, why, oh, I'm so sorry, tell me more, right? That's not changing the topic. Your job is to acknowledge and say, okay, thank you. Maybe even apologize, even if you did nothing wrong. It's always good to have an apology when someone feels that they're going somewhere they don't want to go, right? I'm sorry about that. And then you switch topics. You don't mention it again. It's a very, very important rule because the doors we can open otherwise need to be opened only with consent. And we'll show you how to get consent in public conversations as we continue on. But before we get there, and even once we got there, this is new stuff, right? So I expect fully that some people will make mistakes along the ways. The mistake is not a problem, right? The problem is, once you've made the mistake, are you going to compound it or are you going to correct it, right? So if someone says, let's change topic, your job is to say what? Sure, that's 3 of you. Okay, you guys can stay. So let's start this first of all with a show of hands. Show of hands, who is okay with stopping the conversation instantly if it's not going in the direction for the partner? Excellent, right? Anyone here not put their hand up? Put your hand up if you didn't put your hand up before. Yeah, you don't want to be singled out, do you? That's good. And then the flip side is also true. If something starts going into uncomfortable territory for you, are you okay with saying, no, thank you, let's change topic? And you don't have to be unpleasant about it, you can just say, let's change topic. That's all you have to say, right? And everyone will get the meaning of that. Is everyone okay with doing that too, right? Anyone here doubt or hesitate on that one? Right? This is very important ground rules. And I emphasize this more here than in other places because the thing about conversation hypnosis is there is no formal distinction between when you're doing it and when you're not. That's the whole point of it, right? When you're doing formal hypnosis, there is a clear ritual that separates normal reality from hypnotic realities, right? And those rituals are good for safety because when people say, you know what, I don't like this ritual, they'll pop out and they'll break the ritual as a symbolic act of saying, I'm not feeling comfortable going in this direction, right? That doesn't exist in conversation hypnosis because there's no formal contract for it, which means we have to be that much more aware of where we're going with things. And our ethics really have to be much more tuned up to when we use it and when we don't use it. And you get the sense of what we're saying here. Is that right, guys? Have I emphasized this enough, or shall I spend another half an hour going over this? Now, for those of you in the school, who here is just in the first 5 weeks, who just joined the school recently? Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you're in the primary stage, and who are in the tertiary stage, so week 41 right now? Okay, that's a nice amount of people there. Good. The reason I'm asking this again is the material we're going to go going through here, we have a hypnosis diploma school that lasts 2.5 years, and the next 5 days is going to be a condensed version of the first year of that school, or at least the applied conversation hypnosis stream. There's several streams that go into it, right? But the reason I'm mentioning this is I have an incredible amount of content to try and move out over to you guys. And I know for a fact there's no way that I can get the entire year's worth of content into you guys in 5 days. I'm not that good, right? I haven't figured out the magic pill yet. When I do, you will be sitting here popping pills all day long, but I'm not there yet. So what does it mean in terms of the seminar? It means a couple of things. Number one, we'll be working at a relatively fast pace. Is everyone okay with working at a relatively fast pace? Yes? Yes. Number two, there's going to be a lot of skills that we're building incrementally, skills that require drills to internalize before they become natural. Some of those skills will already be natural to you in terms of your conversational style. So you're okay, that you attune yourself to how you normally do it, and then you'll be good to roll. Other skills will develop sensitivities you may not yet have. And those are the skills that, or the drills, that you'll probably have to take home and carry on practicing to get smooth with it. You will probably get good enough at them here to get a taste of how applied conversation hypnosis looks, feels, behaves, and works for you, right? But again, this is not a magic pill. You need to go home and take these skills and develop them so they become finely tuned, natural part of your communication style. Does it make sense, guys? Right? So the reason I mention this, of course, is because at some point you might feel like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm getting this, I'm a little bit lost, a little bit behind. That feeling is just a question of going back to an earlier stage and drilling in the foundations a bit more solidly before the next stage becomes easier. Every step is actually very easy, right? Those of you who've got towards the end of the ACHC so far, would it be fair to say that once you get the foundations, the next sets of skills are relatively easy? And it gets tricky when the pace is a bit faster, then the foundation's not quite solid, right? I fully expect that to happen at some point over the next 5 days. Rest assured, at the end of the 5 days, you will still walk home with an incredible skill that will take your conversations to the roof. It'll be night and day when you leave here. That I can promise you. Unless you walked in here with a social anxiety and haven't talked to someone in 40 years, then I can't promise that, because then you're missing a lot of groundwork in terms of normal conversations, right? But I can also promise you that if you're willing to invest in the exercises that I'll be walking you through over the next 5 days, and you're willing to invest in those, not just here, but when you go home with your family, with your friends, or with each other, you can get on the phone and just practice with each other. I promise you, it will take your skills to a completely new level yet again, a place that many of you guys don't even know exists at this point. Does that make sense, guys? Right? But because a lot of content's being squeezed into these 5 days, I hope you'll forgive me if I'd rather give you a complete picture of applied conversation hypnosis with a whole bunch of exercises you can take home and practice, than I break the whole thing down and only focus on the first stage, and you think, what the hell do I do with this, right? You'd be good at it, but you wouldn't know what to do with it, so it's not as satisfying. It's a trade-off that we have, right? Otherwise, we'd spend a year here, which I think would be fine for you guys maybe, but I don't know. If I can handle a whole year of full-day trainings like this, right?
Winter's coming, you'd enjoy it.
Winter's coming. I'd much rather be in here than out there, right?